Carousel. I'm your host, Marcelle Soviero, and tonight we're going to hop on the carousel as we do every week and talk to interesting people about interesting things. Tonight I'm delighted to have Erica vanderLinde Feidner, who is a media celebrity, concert pianist, and gifted presenter. She is the founder of Piano Matchmaker and the director of sales for the Faust Harrison Piano Showroom in Fairfield. Welcome, Erica.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
To be here.
So, you grew up with music, without question. Tell us about that.
Thank you. I did. I grew up in a family rich in music. There were 26 pianos in my household. And in the summer, there were 40 children from around the world that joined us to learn to play the piano from my family. We were all pianists and teachers.
Oh.
And so it was a wonderful experience. We were all fully entrenched in music and sharing music with others, and it was a wonderful experience. So we all began playing at the age of 3, and many of us started teaching at a young age. I was 9 when I started teaching, and I was at the Juilliard School at 11, traveling from Vermont. My parents, of course, were my teachers also.
Okay.
And so it was a very unique experience in growing up in this household with people and pianos, and that was just became later in my life sort of second nature, and it was just an extraordinary experience.
Right. So at a young age, you mentioned 11, you went to Juilliard. So were you always destined to be a piano player? Is that the instrument you wanted?
That's a really, really good question. We were all very gifted in my family. It was just, I think when music is around you, you learn to hear in a certain way. And it wasn't, you know, whether it was the environment or nurturing or born with it, you know, who knows, but it was there for all of us. And in my
how
case,
many is all of us?
Thank you. I have 3 older sisters,
okay,
and a younger brother.
Okay.
And we were all pianists, and we were all performing, and we all were very gifted. It turns out that for me, it was something that I did very well, and it was enjoyable in many ways. At the time when I was 21, 22, it was sort of a turning point in my life. I wasn't sure whether that, you know, being a pianist was going to be my path or not. Right. It could have been, but I actually fell when I was skiing, and I injured my hand, and I thought, gee, you know, I don't have to play the piano today, and I was a little relieved. So instead of going into the direction of a concert pianist, I decided to encourage other people to love the piano as much as I did in my heart, but didn't want to necessarily pursue in the concert way. So,
interesting.
Thank you. So I was a teacher for many, many years, and then I later earned my MBA in marketing just to sort of balance my education, and then went into the piano business, and that was really my home. That's where I belong.
So we are going to talk about that, but the piece of you that is a concert pianist, was that when you were younger, now, older? Which piece, which part of your life did that come into for a little while?
For a long while, it started when I was about 11.
So
I was soloist with the
young.
Vermont Symphony, yes, and then I was soloist with the Albany Symphony and the Nashua Symphony, and then the Vermont Symphony again, and then the local orchestra, and this, that, and the other. And you know, the Albany Symphony was a really big performance. I was 15, maybe 16, and it was wonderful. It really was. And then I decided, as I said, when I injured my hand, to take a break.
Take a break from all that.
I took about a 30-year break until about 2 years ago, when it was still a major part of my life, but I just wasn't performing.
Right.
And about 2 years ago, I was approached by a wonderful group to do a concert to benefit something called Stop Hunger Now.
Okay.
And we were able to come up with a substantial amount of money to support children and to feed them. And that was very rewarding for me, to be able to share music in a different way, not for performance, just for for joy and
for the general good.
The general good. Thank you. Those are the right words.
Wow.
And that was very meaningful. So that was 2 years ago. We did it again last year, and it turns out this year we're doing it once again, and we have sort of a different perspective. Where I think there's a middle school in the area that may be participating, and it's just going to be it's just growing, and it's very rewarding. And, yeah,
that's wonderful.
Yes.
So at some point then, you've had so much experience and you went through all this, and then you founded Piano Matchmaker.
I did.
And so just before I came on the show, someone said, "What's a piano matchmaker?" So I said, "Well, you'll find out on the show. Erica will tell us."
It's a really good question.
And it's a really good name. So what do you do as a piano matchmaker?
As the piano matchmaker, what I do is I pair people to pianos and pianos to people. And it seems like, well, just pick one out. You've got the size, you've got the finish, you've got, the price. That's just the beginning. What's exceptional about what I do is each piano, even if we had 100 of them all lined up with the same birthday, the same size, the same price, the same this, that, and the other, each one is unique because they're made of organic materials. So my job is to get to know the needs of the client or the family and to find the perfect fit of a piano that might meet their needs. Now, what does that mean? That means, well, maybe somebody's 92 and they just want to play cocktail music in the corner quietly for the rest of their lives, and they know that's what they want to do. And so we'll choose a piano that has a lyrical, sort of shy, warm sound, whereas if it's for a family, we don't know whether Joey, who's 3, is going to play classical or rock or whatever.
Right.
So we'll choose a piano that has enormous range and dynamic and color and tonal qualities and is happy and peppy, but can also be lyrical and quiet and all that. So that's what I do. But even beyond that, what I try to do once we find the perfect piano is often parents choose a piano for their child.
Right.
And what I want so much to do, and my life's passion, is to transcend the love of music and piano, not just to children. Often parents have sort of a secret desire to want to play also.
Right.
So one of the things I do is I happen to have a patented method of reading music and playing the piano in one lesson, and I share that with folks, and I get the whole family playing. So it's not about buying a piano. That's not it at all. It's really the whole experience of the adventure in recognizing that every piano is unique, and which one is the right one and why. And that's what I do, and it's very satisfying and really gratifying, and something that is unlike anything that I've sort of known in my own life, and I was very happy.
So I read that you've matched more than 1,000 pianos to people, and this is fascinating. So is there a story about a particular piano that found a particular person because of you? I'm sure there are 1,000, but
well,
can you tell us one?
Thank you. One that comes to mind, recently there was a gentleman who, as a child, loved playing the piano. And then there was maybe a 50 or 60 year period of time where he didn't play. Wow. And he's going to be retiring, whatever, and I met him. And we just spoke a little bit, and he said, gosh, I've been struggling. I just can't seem to find my piano. And we tried 3 or 4, and for whatever reason, there's this thing that goes on in my mind, and I go through the inventory in my head, and I said, "Sir, I believe this is your piano." And he said in his French-Canadian accent, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, this piano, I really think has the quality of sound that you like, and as I watch you playing the other instruments, I look at their body language and try to find a piano that also has a touch that is in tune with that individual at that point in time, but also can bring them to another level." And I said, "Gosh, I think this is your piano." And he said, "Well, I don't know." And he tried it, and he said, "I think this is fine." And I said, "Fine? Fine isn't good enough." And I forgot that he was from Canada, and he was French, and fine to him meant beautiful and just perfect. So that was an experience. But what happened was 3 months later, he said, "Erica, I have a new home, a second home, and I must have another piano. So last week he came in and we spent time, totally different brand, totally different everything, different quality of sound, whole new match. And he's very excited, and he bought the piano before the house, so I think he has his priorities right. It was really, really fun, and he's very excited, and that's one example of how things can happen. It doesn't always happen twice, of course, but we like to make the match. I want to be certain the match is right the first time and get it right the first time, every time.
What's interesting about that to me is when you're matching a piano to a young person who's going to grow and grow.
That's right.
Well, you meant, I mean, certainly a lot of parents, I would assume, you know, want that for their prodigy, to just have that in their home. So, you know, you are seeing the future. So how is, you know, to sort of imagine what that student would be in years to come?
Also a very good question. There are some prodigies that come in. We also have some children who come in with disabilities, and they are, it's a wonderful thing. So what I try to do is to match a piano with the needs that are at that moment, whether, you know, they think that they want a light touch or a sound that is very pretty and that sort of thing. So there are pianos that have a light touch and that are pretty, but also have a lot of other qualities. And I often encourage folks to choose a piano that has more breadth than what they were thinking.
Than what they need.
Yeah,
right.
Than what they need at that moment. Because it will open their ears, develop their ears, encourage them to play more, motivate them. I also try to set them up with a teacher that's a good fit. So we have sort of, it's a very broad perspective. It's not just about picking a piano. It's a lifestyle choice, actually, or a life, maybe you have better words than I do.
No, that it is a lifestyle choice. It's an investment for the family.
It is.
And it's, you know, that's a big part of it. So it's interesting to me that you have such a passion in this, and I wonder for your own self if you remember your first piano. Was it an interesting situation or not so much?
Well, what's interesting is that there were 26 of them. There were 26. There was one in room 3 that I was very enamored with.
So
that
you
piano,
did have a favorite.
I did. It spoke to me, and I could communicate with it. And so it was just sort of a natural evolution to recognize that every piano, you know, having been exposed to so many and to so many people at all times, that yes, I had my little favorites, but being a pianist also means you get on stage and the piano that's there is the piano that you play. And there have been pianos that I've performed on that some of the keys didn't work, or the fall board in the middle of a performance came crashing down on my hands, or the pipes start, you know, clanging, or what have you. So being a pianist means you work with what you have.
There's some resilience to that. Okay.
There is, and it's maybe like acting. I don't know, on the stage. I don't know, but it just is something that you're presented with and you work with, and in the end, you make it out with success. And that was something that was a challenge to learn to do, but I had some really great guidance and support along the way.
That's wonderful. So what was your inspiration from the start with loving and learning the piano?
Both of my parents were, well, my father was a mathematician, but he was also a pianist who was self-taught.
Okay.
Self-taught. My mother was a clarinetist, but she was an incredible piano teacher in a group environment.
Okay.
So when I was 3, I was in lessons with 3 or 4 other children, and we would all play a piece at the same time, which really encouraged, you know, no matter what happens, you have to keep on going, because that tempo and the rhythm keeps on going, and you have to keep up and all that. So that was, that was a great way to learn. And it was also very interesting to learn along with other people in the room. So I might have my perspective on what the answer to a question might be. and they may have their perspective, and it's the right answer too, but a different perspective. So that was a really fantastic experience, and one that I treasure. So my inspiration, I think, really came when I was maybe 8 or 9, when I was transitioning from being a group piano lesson student with my mom to individual lessons with my father. And we would listen to recordings of pianists. We listened to Joseph Levine, we listened to Dino Lupati, who was my dad's favorite, and some other pianists that were just sort of, to me, I had not heard music like that.
So you were introduced to this whole new world.
I was.
And fell in love.
My dad and I, we had the same ear. We just heard beauty in the same way.
In the same way.
In the same way. We would go to a concert and just sort of glance at each other when there was a phrase that was just so meaningful and so beautiful that we just look at each other and just nod our heads and smile and go on. So that was a really wonderful.
That's a huge inspiration, certainly.
Yeah, big inspiration.
So you told us in the beginning when we started talking that sometimes there were 40 people in your house. So I really think we need to go back to the 26 pianos, the 40 people with you as a youngster. So clearly something was going on.
Something was going on, and it was more than sometimes. There were 7 weeks during the summer where 40 children at a time from around the world lived with us to learn to play the piano. So there were, I mentioned to you our having grown up in this household, it was very rich in music. It was not rich in other material things, and that's fine. But we were exposed to different cultures of people coming and joining us, different ways of working together and talking with each other and so on. But every day, we would all wake up and make our beds and have breakfast and then visit the piano at a certain time, and a teacher might pop into the room and say, "Are you ready for a lesson?" Or not even, "Are you ready?" It's lesson time.
Here it is. Yeah.
Here I am. And they would have a lesson with pretty much a different teacher every day in a different room on a different piano. And we visited Tanglewood on a weekly basis. And there was solfege and chorus and sports and swimming and the normal camp experience, but it was very much piano focused. And music focused, and but it was very much a joyful perspective. It was very intense, but the children didn't realize how intense it was. Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So it was tremendous, and it is actually ongoing today. My eldest sister is running the program called Sonatina in Vermont, in my childhood home, and it's. She's also. So
there's still 40 students coming in.
That's right.
And that's astonishing. That's wonderful.
Well, thank you.
Really.
Thank you.
So when you speak about that, what happened? So that's your summers as a person in your Vermont home. But music was still infiltrating certainly during the year. It wasn't just was there teaching going on in your home all throughout the year?
There was. My mom was a full-time piano teacher. My dad was a mathematician, but again he would teach all of us, and he had some other private students. So yes, music was all around us at all times. And as I mentioned, I started teaching when I was 9.
Right.
My sisters were also teaching at a young age, which was a great skill to have.
Sure.
And was something that could be used, at any point in a lifetime. Yes.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've brought back into my life.
I was going to say, you have done this for you are a teacher now of the piano, correct?
I am. Yes, I am.
Okay, and you have your own methodology, correct?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I do have 2 issued patents, and the first is reading music and playing the piano in one lesson. And it seems like, well, that's kind of crazy. But the way that I teach is an alternative perspective, where instead of translating twice, like here's the name of the note, and here's what it's called, and then you go and find it on the keyboard, it's much more related to spatial learning and the distance from one note to another, which what I like to say is the way that I teach is what you see on the musical score is what you feel with your hands, and is what you hear with your ears. You're developing your ear as you are envisioning the musical score. It's a little bit hard to explain. It's a very simple concept, but it's something that I share with folks, and with some folks it takes an hour. With some folks it takes maybe 20 minutes, just to show them the perspective on how reading is not difficult.
How reading music
is not difficult, in particular for piano, because there's a direct correlation between what's on the score and the white keys on the piano. And so I remember working on this patent thinking, well, gee, if I got rid of the clefs, and if I got rid of the sharps, and got rid of the flats, and got rid of this, and sort of got rid of all the periphery, and brought it down to one nugget, one concept.
It's the space?
Yes, the space between, from one note to another one.
To the next one.
There are lines and spaces on the piano, so I don't want to confuse that. It's just the spatial distance between one and another. And what that does is it also develops the ear, which is beneficial, and it's very much instant gratification. And that's always nice, isn't it? Isn't it nice?
Yeah,
it's sort of nice.
Certainly.
You don't have to think, okay, well, that's F.
Right.
Well, gee, there's 8 Fs on the piano, so which F is it, and what does F look like? So it's really
conceivably an adult or child could come to you and play music.
Yes.
Almost immediately.
Yes. And so
with this method.
That's right. It is almost immediate. And my second patent is on an app, which is not out yet, but I have folks reading and playing in 30 seconds. And the beauty of it is that they don't know that they're reading. It's a game.
Oh.
And so what I would like to be doing is to bring folks in to learn this way with me, and then also bring teachers in. You know, a lot of folks are saying, you know, you're going to alienate piano teachers out there. And my perspective is that I'm going to be sharing music with folks, bring piano teachers in, so that when folks who have the initial experience with me can see that they can read and it's not so hard, then they dare to take the next step to begin the journey in taking long-term lessons. So it's a great experience for the student, for the teacher, and for me. So we all win.
Everybody wins.
Everybody wins.
But what's so interesting about this is not how you learned, I'm assuming, or did your parents start with this sort of learning as well? Was this?
There was a seed that was planted, and I took that seed and developed it into something.
Into this whole.
It's a whole concept, and
wow.
It works very well. And as I said, there are often folks who come in to choose a piano for the child, but then I can see that it's really the parent that has this desire. They really. So what I will be doing is to bring in people who have chosen pianos and provide them with this concept and the gift of reading music in a matter of an hour or less. And
that's incredible.
That's what I do, and that's what I love to do. And just bringing the idea that reading music and playing the piano is not difficult, and to help them choose a piano that is for a lifetime, that is an experience. It's really an experience. It's not, as I said, it's not just choosing a piano. It's a little bit along the lines of adopting a pet. That it's the pet that comes to you for a long period of time, and that is meaningful and brings love and joy. And that's what I get to do.
And that's what you
every day.
That's wonderful.
Every day.
So you're an entrepreneur, you teach, you're a concert pianist, and you've also just opened a new showroom of pianos. Tell us a little bit about that.
Thank you. I was independent with my company called Piano Matchmaker, or what have you, and I felt that I wanted to work around more people. And so I was fortunate to be in touch with a family that had a family business for 30 years, and they knew me well, and I knew them well. And over the years, there was never an ill word, and there was never competition. There was just support, even though we were not together. And they have embraced my philosophy and asked me to run a showroom. It's the first in Connecticut for them, their 4th store. Wow. And I tell you, it's just been sheer joy.
That's wonderful.
Thanks.
So you continue to reach more and more people. We only have a minute left, so I can't imagine, but what might be the next thing for you after all of this?
Oh my gosh. Yikes.
I put her on the spot.
You did a little bit.
I'm sure you have plans.
I do have dreams. I do have dreams, and my biggest dream, I know we only have like 45 seconds. I would like on the steps of the Metropolitan Museum to turn those steps into a working piano keyboard and have people age 1 to 88 on 88 keys with a screen with my application, my game app, jumping on that key, and everybody's playing the Beethoven's Ninth Symphony in New York City. That's my dream.
That's quite a vision.
Crazy,
I have no
but I think
doubt.
it can be done.
That is a beautiful vision.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. So for those who in our audience who are dreaming of being a pianist, what would you say, the young people in our audience?
For the young people?
Yeah,
there's no question. If you have the motivation, there are enormous possibilities out there, and you don't have to be at Carnegie Hall when you get older. If you'd like to, that can happen too, but really it's a matter of loving music and playing the piano and enjoying the journey, which is sometimes challenging, but is very rewarding, and I would encourage any child of any age, from the age of 2.
I was going to say.
From the age of 2.
Wow, wow.
They can read music too, and or they can improvise or compose or what have you. But there's a path that each individual can take and focus on that they will be very good at and love, and that can be something that is close to the heart and can be very rewarding and satisfying.
Yeah.
So,
do you think that we all have the talent, the possibility for this?
I do.
You do. So that's a wonderful message for
I
everyone.
believe that wholeheartedly. I think
that's wonderful.
Absolutely that anybody can play the piano and enjoy it.
Yep. Wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here with us tonight.
Thanks for the
You're
invitation.
an inspiration.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.